Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and today is October 2. Our very special guest today is in the Washington area, Yvonne Quahe, who has written a book, and it's actually quite a story about her own experience, her own work in connection with her time involved with the World Bank Group, dealing with families. So welcome, Yvonne. Thank you for being on our show, which I'm calling Books and Authors TV Talk Show. How long did it take you from the day you decided to go forward to today?
Okay. Well, depends where you make the starting point. I say Englishly, I've been faffing around with this idea since 2018, February 2018, when I really felt that, there was something and I should actually write a book and not try to avoid doing it. So then I took 1 year of what should I do? Should it be an online course? And finally, I put my mind to it in 2019. And then I started to get busy with work and travel and, family. And in the end, really, this is a COVID baby, because when COVID came, I found a publisher, and then I didn't write but one chapter from October till January. And the publisher basically was saying, so it's only one chapter. So how about, how you're progressing? And then actually what happened was COVID hit. And I thought to myself, well, if you can't write during lockdown, you will never write it, because now you are working, but you can't go out. You don't have a commute. You can't travel. And I really find that in the end, I got down to writing this book.
The book is called Whose Career? Yours, Mine, or Ours? Addressing the Dual Career Dilemma. So let's get into this. I see from some notes that your research showed that talking about the millennials, in other words, people more likely than others to go on assignment once pandemic eases, are millennials. And that means people who are, 40 and up, 40 to 50 or so, 35?
Oh, no, I would say in their 30s, late 20s, 30s to millennials, and then those who are mid-career professionals. So, yeah.
Yeah, 80%, your research showed 80% will be
women.
millennials, will be millennials, right?
Yeah, 78% are actually dual career partners in partnership. So there is a real demographic shift in that, most people have two careers. They're either dual career or dual income. So dual career, the technical definition of dual career, or the academic definition, is those are two people who have career ambitions and who also get a psychic reward from working. So it's not just about money. The dual income couples tend to be just about money
and purpose. Yeah.
Dual career couples tend to look more for purpose, self-actualization, realizing of their ambition, and through all those attainment of those goals, they feel that rewarded. So it's more than money. So there is an increase of that, and largely because women now are much better educated than they were before. And they have their own career ambitions, and it includes career and family. And that is why I called the book Whose Career? Yours, Mine, or Ours?
So the problem is that many times it's been women who are forced to go along and crash their career to support husbands who is maybe making more money and has more upward mobility within the organizations. And so the women don't feel guilty. I wouldn't call it guilty. It's just that they sacrifice.
And at the risk of sounding controversial, I think women also have a greater capacity to sacrifice. Dare I say that to a man? But anyway, and I think historically, the world over, if you look at it, it is still a man's world, although women are making strong inroads and they're making headway. But I think it's uneven. I mean, if you take a global perspective of it, and even in the Northern Europe, Western Europe, should I say, North America, you'll find that too. The workplace is actually genderized. Sometimes I think not deliberately, but unconsciously, because I think women sometimes pull themselves out. There's nobody to blame but themselves. And I remember talking to a friend of mine, and she is actually extremely a well-educated, very entrepreneurial, and she had a really good career. And I asked her, before you came here to Washington, in your previous job, were you with an aerospace company? Were you ever offered to go abroad? And she said, oh yeah, I was, because we have many plants all over the world. And I said, well, why didn't you take it up? And she said, well, because I thought John wouldn't be able to manage. And I said, well, did you discuss it with him? And she said, no. She said, no, he won't manage. So I said, no. And so sometimes I think women, we out ourselves. We actually make all kinds of assumptions about.
So the conversations will be difficult. And I need to fix my camera here for a second. Okay. Let's talk about this communications issue. Okay. So we're dealing with a volatile situation, to say the least, because there's a lot of unspoken stuff going on, because people think they know each other, or they've learned how to avoid traps or create a fissure. So this is a conundrum, as you say here in chapter 2. In your chapter 2, I don't want to, but I'm going to do it. That's one of your subchapters. And then you have another one called Enter the Great Disruptors and Mitigating the Disruptors. Okay, so what are you talking about?
Which one? When will my turn come? Okay, let's do turn.
No. First of all, the great disruptors. What are the disruptors?
The disruptors, it's actually global relocation. Because with the disruptors, you have things like where do I go? When do we go? The work permit, I think, is one of the greatest disruptors there is, because it is not a matter of whether you want to work. In some locations, you just cannot work. And then what do you do? So this becomes very challenging, because when it comes to the organization is very interested in the talent, sending one person to the right place. But the one person, this is why it's a dilemma, because they're actually dealing with two people and two organizations. But each organization is talking to one person and thinking of their organization. And so it brings us to the next statistic, where it actually says that 80% of women cite partner unwillingness to move because of a career as the main reason for not accepting an international assignment. And 70% of men also cite that partner unwillingness. And this is where it gets difficult, because you want the talent of a person in one place, but actually you think of two careers that had to somehow dovetail and work out. So it is a huge disruptor. Of course, there are location challenges like language. Sometimes, like for instance, I was talking to somebody on Friday, and the local unemployment rate in South Africa, the official rate is 42%.
Wow.
Now, how could you justify giving a work permit at that point to a partner when you have 42% of the South Africans without jobs?
Yeah, but who can do the job better?
That might be true, but in many countries, actually, there are very highly qualified host country nationals. That's the point, because education has made so much progress. There are many university graduates who actually could do the job.
So let's talk about the realities of remote working and high-speed internet. A spouse or partner, even though they've given up the idea of working for a company and to help support the spouse partner, they could work remotely.
Yep.
So it's kind of, well, it may not be legal yet, right, in that country. And then there could be a tax consequence, but the work can get done.
Yes, I think, you put your finger on it. And I think the jury is still out about the tax issues and the immigration issues. But remote work is the greatest gift of COVID, because before COVID, although I personally have always advised the first line of defense is always ask your current employer. They know you, they like you, you're trusted by them. If you have to move, you go to your employer and say, would you consider allowing me to work in, say, Hong Kong or in Bangkok or whatever place you're going to, or Nairobi? And that would be up to them then to say yes or no. But now with COVID, even the most resistant people, employers, cannot say, oh, it's not possible, because most of the world was working remote for at least a year. So it is possible. Now the question is whether I want to let you or not. I can't use that argument that, guess what? Well, we don't do remote work. All the companies have upskilled their technology to make sure that it can be done. So that's a real gift.
That's really interesting, and that changes the whole world of international mobility. So it's disruptive as hell, but I think that the people are trying to figure it out, and it's not simple. It's a Rubik's cube of problems, but it can be done. So let's talk about chapter 3, the professional follower. Okay, the accompanying partner syndrome. So what's the syndrome you're referring to?
Well, the syndrome I refer to is the assumption primarily made by women that they have to follow. And this is generational, I think, because you would find that, say, in the boomer generation, 47% of boomers are dual career couples. And at that time, it was always assumed that the women would give up their career. It was always assumed that when the children came, whether you moved or you didn't move, if you had issues with childcare or wanted to spend more time with your children, the woman gave up the job. So I think many of us still assume when push comes to shove, it will be women. And many, even, Harvard, many schools have done surveys of their MBA students, and they have found still that the male MBA graduates up 10 years later have progressed much more in their careers than women. Still, I mean, not in all cases, but predominantly it's the prevailing trend still.
I'm particularly curious about the CARE, C-A-R-E, the CARE code.
Right.
This sounds like it's James Bond stuff. So what is the CARE code?
The CARE code is a conversational framework that I design because it is actually, you said it much earlier, it can be a very volatile conversation. Many people have said to me in the course of my work, I don't even know how to start this conversation. So it's very interesting. I've had a discussion with a psychotherapist, and this psychotherapist friend of mine actually said, well, this is all very intellectual, it's all very cerebral. And, it's only as good as your emotional capacity to deal with some of these issues. But I sort of flip the coin and say, no, I say I give you guardrails to have this conversation so that it doesn't disintegrate and you start fighting right before you even begin. Because, for instance, C stands for clarify, and we talk about clarifying what really matters to you. And I think, I sort of envisage if the conversation is getting off the rails, somebody, the couple, can actually pull back and say, wait a minute, we're supposed to be talking about, clarifying what matters to us, what matters to you, rather than start, going down rabbit holes and taking more, getting into arguments about it. I'm not saying it's a foolproof method, but the way I see it is that it is a tool to solve some of the dilemmas that you face as a couple. And also, I see it being used for HR, for instance, where the C is clarifying. And I'm just deciding, okay, this is a tricky conversation, but I really need Ed to go. So I can pull you in and go, hey, Ed, this is what we have in mind for your career. Tell me, what's really important to you? And that way, by giving people some questions to ask of the situation, then you will hear from me. And I could say, I'm happy to relocate, Ed, but it has to be somewhere where my partner can work. So straight off what you're dealing with. I think it's slightly different when you use it in an organizational context, is to bring more structure to a difficult conversation.
So
I think with a couple is slightly different because it's personal. I mean, most people don't finish off with a shouting argument with their bosses or with HR.
No,
well, they don't.
So let's talk about what the letters mean.
Okay.
Care, C-A-R-E. C is for clarifying things. What
Yeah.
A-R-E?
A is for assess. So to assess, with a couple, it's assessing like, what are my no-go zones? What are the limits that I'm willing to go with you, for you? What are my limits? And after that, it's like, no, there's no deal, right? Then to refocus is R. Where do we need to refocus then? Once we've sorted out, where I stand, then do we need to refocus? If your picture and my picture are really very different, then we do need to refocus. And then the E is to really explore what are the options based on basically our alignment and our refocus, depending on what that outcome is. What do we need to know more about? And I have found actually a lot of people make decisions based on insufficient information, data. And then, it could be something as simple, sometimes work permits, sometimes about the local employment market. And they just hear a country and they say, take the US, for instance, historically or the world over, stereotypically US, the land of dreams, where dreams come true, where, rags to riches stories. But when you actually come to the US, the employment market's far more nuanced than that. If you will have hardcore manufacturing experience, the East Coast is not ideal for you. You need to go to the Midwest. If you happen to be based on the East Coast, you'll be pushing, trying to find a job that you would find interesting and satisfying.
Interesting stuff. Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show. a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we are researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Let's talk once again about how to have a care conversation, who should do it, and when.
You know, I think care conversations between a couple, let's focus on a couple for now. Because I think what is so curious to me is that actually your partner is your main stakeholder in all the success that you have in life, and actually in the quality of life you might have. I mean, your partner has a capacity to make your life something like heaven or definitely hell.
Right.
Right? So often we forget to actually talk to the main stakeholder. So I think people do it different ways. Some people do it over a meal, over a glass of wine. Some people hike. But I think it has to be regular. And not just when we're suddenly faced with a big decision. And these conversations, Ed, are about how I feel, what I think, my fears. I'm not talking about, tomorrow Johnny has to be picked up and, Sarah has to go to ballet and, the nanny's just called in sick. What are we going to do? All couples talk about that all the time. It's about the other things that when we're busy, we think, let's not it's too much trouble.
So you have here in notes, which I find really interesting, exercises to kickstart a care discussion. And right now, this is between the couple rather than the boss.
Right.
Okay. So exercises. So breathing.
Well, I focus. I have quite a few exercises, and I have some exercises actually on my website too, just about listening and communicating. But the exercises in this book are actually focused on careers and focus on particularly international relocation, like for instance, the where and when discussion. Because once it's clear between the couple where we will go, you can sort of have a wish list. I will go to those countries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 countries, but there's certain countries, sorry, I don't want to go. Now, if both of you know those, then you can have a better conversation with your boss. So when he says, look, I'd really like you to go to South Africa, then you can say, well, actually, do you think you could consider sending me to Nairobi because of the skill set of my spouse, or this is what it will work better for us, or whatever the case scenario will be. If you've got the research done, then I think you're more equipped, rather than when you're offered the opportunity, you just say, no, sorry, no, my spouse won't go, or yes, fine, we'll go.
But here's what it will cost. Let's talk about keeping focus on care, staying on track is your chapter 7. Staying on track and care makes it work. So staying on track means don't bring in this other stuff, just focus on the issue of work, right?
I think it's focusing on both the issue of work, and I think more importantly, the life that we want. What kind of life? Because we all don't just work, I hope. So in general, what is the life that we want? Do we, make a career a priority, and therefore, if you need to do it because it's an opportunity that's too good to miss, then I stay behind? Is it that we never want to be in a long distance relationship, so one of us will give up our career, not necessarily career, but our job, to enable the other to take this opportunity?
Yeah.
How long will this be? Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? I still contend that you can actually take a career break for up to 3 years if you manage well without sabotaging. And if the 100-year life really is what we're all in for, then I think having 3-year breaks every now and again might not be too bad, because if you're going to work for 60 years, gosh, would I need a break?
So chapter 4 is really interesting, and we're not going to have enough time to deal with all this at this sitting. But chapter 4 is, reading it, A Win for All, the career stories of 6 couples. And one that really just hits me from the title is role reversal. So can you give us some backstory about Amanda and Simon?
Well, that is an amazing story because it's a great success story of them deciding whose career should take precedence, and also the finding a role for and in this case, Simon, to be sure that he had a role to play. It was a non-financial role. And what I was really taken with when I interviewed them was that they had this little thing between them that said no blame. They shake hands on a deal as if it was a deal and said just no blame. Because she said to me in the interview, I realized if we started to blame each other when things went wrong, this would be the end of the relationship. So they always said, they shook on it, they agreed, and they said, okay, no blame. And if it doesn't work, then we will make another decision. And he actually said to her, you need to leave me something to do. So if you're going to work, I need a role to play, which is dad at home. And you need to just come home and enjoy the kids. And even if I'm not doing the housework well and I'm not really cooking very well, or whatever the case may be, you need to step out so that I can grow in my role. I mean, in a curious fashion, it's almost like telling your manager, don't micromanage me. let me learn from my mistakes. And of course, in this particular case study, he goes on to become a really good athlete. So he's a triathlon champion, he's a cyclist. So he reconstructs his identity. But what is very important, I think, and I don't know if it comes across in the case study, is that they had joint finances. And I think that is such an indicator of our mindset, because it changes the dynamic, it changes the power play. It's ours. So he is as much as a contributor to their family success in the life that they have, which they enjoy adventure. And they decided that this was it. So yeah, it can be successful, but I think it can also cause a lot of frustration and
So yeah,
pain.
so do they have Dr. Spock help them, or Dr. Natalie? I mean, who set up the guardrails, or were they smart enough to figure that out?
You know, that's a very interesting question, because many people have asked us as well, meaning me and my partner, Graham, how did we know what we know? And I do talk a little bit about it in the book, and I am now beginning to trace a pattern. But in their case, they're the outlier. If you look at the other case studies, they're all biracial couples. So
Wow.
somehow being from different countries and different cultures forces you, I think, at the outset of the relationship to really talk about certain things of how is this going to work, I think.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So one of these is a same-sex couple.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, non-traditional.
Biracial same-sex. Yes.
Yeah, Chuck and Chen. So it sounds like it's a sitcom, but it probably
Well, they're
wasn't.
all anonymized so that nobody can trace them in the real world.
Good. So first of all, that has to be allowable in the country, right? Because some countries frown on that.
Right. So actually, for same-sex couples, it's a international relocation is a mountain, because as you so clearly point out, and rightly so, yeah, in many countries it's not acceptable. So then what do you do? And again, it's a dilemma, and people, different same-sex couples, have chosen to solve that in different ways. Sometimes they have gone in on 2 independent visas and found jobs and gone in as professionals. Sometimes one has gone in on a tourist visa, which in this particular, in COVID times has really proved to be a challenge, because many I know have been stuck. They have not been able to get out, because if you're on a tourist visa, you won't be let in again. So you either get out and don't come back, or you stay put where you are with your long stay visa and don't try to leave. So that one is particularly difficult. Yes.
So this is really interesting, Yvonne, Quahe, and I can't wait to read this book. And it sounds like there's a movie coming too.
There is?
Maybe a documentary. Maybe this guy Ken Burns will do something about all this. But I think you've got something really hot here, and I'm really happy to have you on this show. And please come back once this book launches. So the name again is Whose Career Is It? Yours, mine, or ours?
Whose career? Yours, mine, or ours? Addressing dual career dilemma with care. So the care code is there, exercises are there, stories are there. Yes, you can buy it on Amazon. It's available on Kindle.
Okay, everybody, you see how Yvonne spells her name there? Go look her up on LinkedIn too. And thank you, Yvonne. And we'll see you on Global TV.
Thank you so much, Ed.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.